Okay, first of all, I know the history behind the WNBA. I know that both of those cities have had teams before and they got us where we're at, so I'm thankful for that.
The WNBA is in full damage control mode after Sophie Cunningham dropped a bombshell revelation that's shaking the league to its core. Her shocking statement has sparked outrage, heated debates, and now, an enormous fine aimed at silencing the controversy. Was this a bold stand for the truth, or a move the league sees as crossing the line? Fans are split, players are whispering, and the tension is spreading fast. One thing's certain: this isn't just about basketball anymore. Here's the explosive story behind the fine everyone's talking about. Sophie Cunningham's battle ignites a storm in the WNBA. This season, Sophie Cunningham has found herself at the center of a growing controversy unlike anything the WNBA has seen before. 4 separate fines have been handed down to her, a rare and harsh response from the league for a player still rising to stardom. It all started when Sophie, frustrated by a game filled with questionable referee decisions, posted a blunt TikTok video calling the officials useless. That single act led to an immediate $500 fine, a punishment that shocked many fans and players alike. But Sophie didn't back down. Instead, she took her frustration to a podcast, where she didn't just defend her earlier comments, she expanded on them, revealing a deep and widespread dissatisfaction shared by many players about the officiating in the league. This bold move led to an even heavier fine, $1,500. The total penalties against her now stand at a staggering $2,000, marking a clear message from the WNBA. Yet this message did not silence Sophie. It fueled a firestorm that has caught the attention of the entire basketball community. The backlash was swift and fierce. Social media platforms erupted as hashtags supporting Sophie began trending worldwide. Fans voiced their outrage, pointing out the glaring inconsistency in the league's approach. While Cunningham faced multiple fines for speaking her truth, Caitlin Clark, another star player, has not been fined despite dominating games and drawing intense scrutiny over the last 2 seasons. This contrast only deepened the public's anger and confusion. Almost overnight, GoFundMe campaigns sprang up, raising enough money to cover Sophie's fines within hours. Petitions demanding transparency in officiating and fairness in the imposition of fines gathered thousands of signatures in record time. The calls for change were loud and clear. Why punish a player for speaking out about a problem so many believe exists? Why ignore the cries for better refereeing and accountability? Sophie's story isn't just about fines or frustrations. It's about a league at a crossroads. The tension between players and officials, the question of fairness, and the demand for honesty are all bubbling to the surface. As voices grow louder and support swells, the WNBA faces a challenge that could reshape its future. The fallout from Sophie Cunningham's bold stance has only just begun. Now what happens when courage meets control? Will Sophie's fight ignite change or unleash consequences no one saw coming? The next chapter will reveal all. Keep watching. Sophie Cunningham and the clash over free speech in the WNBA. The stark difference between how the WNBA and other major basketball leagues handle criticism could not be clearer. In the NBA, outspoken players like Draymond Green or legends such as Charles Barkley have built entire careers not just on their skills, but on their fearless honesty. Barkley especially became a cultural icon by speaking his mind openly, unapologetically challenging the game and its flaws. Fans expect and celebrate this kind of candor. It's part of the sport's identity. But Sophie Cunningham's experience tells a different story. After she openly called out referees for failing to protect players, including Caitlin Clark, the response was chilling. One moment, she was simply sharing frustration. The next, a league official pulled her aside in front of everyone and quietly warned, "They're going to fine you again." This was more than a simple reprimand. It was a clear message that the WNBA's tolerance for free speech is limited, and the consequences are steep. Unlike the NBA's culture of open dialogue, the WNBA seems to follow a harsher playbook where speaking out carries heavy penalties. This contrast is impossible to ignore and raises serious questions about what kind of environment the league wants to create. Yet, in trying to silence Sophie Cunningham, the WNBA has done something far different from what was intended. Their punishment has only magnified her voice, shining an even brighter spotlight on the very officiating issues she exposed. This is the classic Streisand effect in action, attempting to bury a story only to make it headline news. The irony runs deeper when considering recent controversies involving unpunished cheap shots on Caitlin Clark. Fans have noticed a troubling pattern. The league appears more willing to penalize players for words than for questionable or dangerous actions on the court. What kind of message does that send about priorities and fairness? How can trust grow when the punishment system seems uneven and accountability feels elusive? Sophie's criticism was straightforward and honest. "If I were a ref, I'd admit I mess up all the time. The job isn't easy. But when a simple call right in front of you is missed multiple times, what are you doing? What are you doing?" That question echoes beyond just one player or one game. It challenges the integrity of the league's officiating as a whole. The problem extends beyond a single fine or a single player. When the NFL's officiating looks vastly superior, it only highlights the WNBA's deep struggles in this area. Fans, players, and observers alike are left wondering, how long can a league survive when the voices calling for transparency and fairness are met with fines instead of solutions? The battle Sophie Cunningham has sparked is about more than fines or frustration. It's a fight for the soul of the league itself, and the outcome remains uncertain. So, what really lies beneath the fines and silence? Can Sophie's fight expose a truth the WNBA desperately wants to hide? Stay glued. What unfolds next could reshape everything, or shatter it completely. Sophie Cunningham and the WNBA's officiating crisis. Have fans ever left a WNBA game feeling uneasy, as if the contest wasn't quite fair? That lingering frustration is exactly what Sophie Cunningham has brought into the spotlight. While she openly acknowledges that refereeing is a tough job, her real concern lies in the inconsistency that plagues the league's officiating. This isn't about a few missed calls here and there, it's about a pattern that's becoming impossible to ignore. This pattern seeps into how teams adjust their play, how fans react with mounting anger, and how players vent their frustrations after games. Sophie's bold remarks didn't come out of thin air. They have ripped open a deep wound that the WNBA has quietly tried to avoid for years. The recent incidents involving Caitlin Clark perfectly illustrate the problem. Star players frequently suffer cheap shots during games without a single whistle blowing. These moments, once rare, are now all too common, fueling outrage among fans and players alike. Questions flood the stands and social media. Why do these fouls go unpunished? Why does the league appear to turn a blind eye? The voices across the league, veterans, rookies, and fans from all over the country, echo the same bewilderment. What's going on with the refs? Many ask. Yet the league's response has been to slap fines on outspoken players like Sophie. A $500 fine for expressing frustration might seem like a small punishment to some, but it only adds fuel to the fire. Instead of calming tensions, these penalties have transformed Sophie's story into a rallying cry. Her podcast discussion about the fines turned the spotlight back on the WNBA's officiating issues, making the debate even more intense and public. While other professional leagues also wrestle with refereeing problems, the difference is stark. The WNBA seems quick to penalize words rather than actions. Players who speak up face hefty fines, while dangerous or unfair plays often go unaddressed. This imbalance creates a growing divide between the league and its fans. Rather than fostering trust and support, It's driving them away, feeding resentment toward a system that feels increasingly unfair. The question remains, how long can the WNBA keep sidelining the voices calling for transparency and fairness before the cracks beneath the surface break wide open? Sophie Cunningham's courage has exposed more than just officiating flaws. It has sparked a fight for the league's integrity and future. But what if silencing Sophie was just the beginning? How far will the league go to protect its fragile image before everything unravels? Stay connected to know the truth. How the WNBA's silence backfires. When comparing how major sports leagues handle referee controversies, the difference is striking. Take the NFL, for example. Despite high-profile mistakes like the infamous 2019 no-call in the Saints game, the league maintains a stronger sense of accountability. Referees there are viewed as professionals whose decisions are openly analyzed and discussed by fans, players, and media alike. Players can voice their frustrations about officiating without fear of punishment. This openness builds trust, even when mistakes happen. In stark contrast, the WNBA seems to be taking a very different route, one that focuses more on quieting critics than on solving the real problems. The league's decision to fine Sophie Cunningham $500, then another $1,005, has sparked outrage and drawn sharp criticism. Fans flooded social media with petitions demanding better officiating and transparency, clearly showing that silencing one player only fans the flames of discontent. This isn't just a passing backlash. It's a powerful statement that the public will no longer accept unanswered questions or hidden decisions. Research confirms that poor officiating does far more damage than just affecting game outcomes. It erodes trust. Fans start doubting the fairness and credibility of the league. Players grow hesitant to speak up, fearing fines and penalties that stifle honest conversation. This cycle of silence and mistrust can drive fans away entirely, weakening the sport's support system and future growth. Sophie Cunningham's story highlights this problem. She was never trying to create drama for personal gain, though she could have profited significantly by capitalizing on her outspoken views. Clips of her discussing referees would likely have earned her hundreds, if not thousands, in views and sponsorships. Instead, she chose to call out the referees bluntly, once even calling them useless. That frankness triggered harsh consequences, but it also became a rallying cry. What's truly remarkable is that fans and players aren't backing down. The noise on social media isn't just empty chatter, it's a demand for clarity and honesty. Sophie's comments didn't start the controversy. They merely exposed a problem the league has been struggling with for years. The WNBA's reaction has shown that cracking down on criticism only drives the issue deeper into the spotlight, intensifying calls for accountability. As this movement grows, the league stands at a crossroads. It can choose to confront the officiating problems openly or risk alienating the very community that fuels its existence. The stakes have never been higher, and now the WNBA faces a crucial choice. Will it confront deep-rooted issues or silence its critics? And what hidden forces are driving this urgent crisis? What happens next will redefine everything. The WNBA's battle with criticism and credibility. The WNBA's decision to fine a player simply for discussing her own fines feels like something straight out of a surreal bureaucratic nightmare. It's baffling, almost Kafkaesque, not because it reveals some deep irony, but because it highlights how out of touch the league seems to be with its own challenges. Sophie Cunningham shared the full story on her podcast, describing how her general manager pulled her aside, right in front of the team, to deliver the news of yet another fine. Despite acknowledging that some referees are skilled and that their job is far from easy, Sophie's words were not enough to escape the league's strict penalty system. The problem runs deeper. If referees were consistently making the right calls and maintaining order on the court, players like Sophie wouldn't feel the need to publicly air their frustrations. The fact that this is happening reflects a serious breakdown in officiating standards. Instead of taking the criticism seriously and working to improve, the league chose to ignore the concerns and doubled down on punishment, turning a simple complaint into a much bigger issue. What began as one player's voice of frustration has snowballed into a major controversy involving free speech and the limits of league authority. And the timing couldn't be more damaging. Just as the Wall Street Journal published an opinion piece raising concerns about Caitlin Clark's civil rights being potentially violated, the WNBA is now under the microscope for creating a hostile environment where honest feedback is met with fines and intimidation. Media outlets are questioning whether the league fosters a workplace where players feel safe to speak up. The stark contrast in how the league handles different situations is shocking. For over 2 years, players like Caitlin Clark have been targeted with dangerous hits. Marina Mabre delivering a brutal blindside, DJ Carrington nearly injuring Clark's eye. Yet these incidents have largely gone without significant consequences. Meanwhile, when Sophie Cunningham points out referees' failures, the WNBA suddenly becomes laser-focused on enforcing discipline. It's like watching a person ignore a raging fire in their house but fuss over someone forgetting to use a coaster. The priorities are so misaligned that it borders on tragicomic. If only it weren't so damaging to the league's reputation. Fans have responded predictably, their outrage clear and fierce. They see the disconnect between what the league claims to value and how it actually operates. The WNBA's handling of this crisis threatens to alienate the very people who love the game most, players and supporters alike, while raising uncomfortable questions about where the league's true priorities lie. So how did a league meant to inspire silence its own stars? And what shocking truth lies behind the curtain waiting to explode? You won't want to miss this part. The WNBA's struggle, silencing voices amid officiating chaos. The stark contrast in the WNBA's approach to player safety and free speech has left fans and players questioning its true priorities. While Sophie Cunningham faced fines for simply discussing referees on her podcast, other players have been subjected to brutal physical treatment, particularly Caitlin Clark, who has endured harsh, sometimes dangerous hits over 2 entire seasons without a single fine issued against those responsible. This glaring inconsistency cuts straight to the core of the league's misaligned focus. The outpouring of frustration erupted immediately after Sophie's fines became public. A petition demanding major changes in WNBA officiating began gathering signatures at a rapid pace, with supporters adding their names every few minutes. This wasn't a planned campaign. It was a spontaneous reaction from fans who had been silently simmering with discontent for too long. The message was clear. Something is seriously wrong with how the league handles both officiating and player criticism. Some argue that all professional leagues fine players for criticizing officials, which is partly true. However, what sets the WNBA apart is the persistent need for such criticism in the first place. Other leagues, despite occasional mistakes, maintain a level of officiating that rarely forces players to speak out continuously. The NFL, often scrutinized for controversial calls, still boasts referees whose judgment and vision far exceed what has been seen in the WNBA. When another league's officiating is seen as flawless in comparison, it highlights how urgent the problem is, and suggests that fixing the root cause should come before punishing those who bring it up. Even more baffling is the mildness of Sophie's comments. Her criticism was measured and respectful. No profanity, no personal attacks, just a simple truth echoed by countless viewers. The referees are failing to do their job well, yet the league responded not with an effort to listen and improve, but with fines and an apparent attempt to silence dissent. This reaction speaks volumes about the WNBA's priorities. It reveals a league more focused on controlling the story than solving the issues that plague the game. Rather than embracing feedback as an opportunity for growth, the WNBA seems trapped in a cycle of defensive damage control, an approach that ultimately harms the league's reputation and alienates the very community it depends on. The question now is how long this pattern can continue before it causes irreversible damage. And just when it seemed the WNBA might change course, a shocking decision threatens to ignite an even bigger crisis. What will it mean for the league's future? Stay tuned for what comes next. When silencing truth sparks a fire, the WNBA's deepening crisis. The decision to fine Sophie Cunningham for openly criticizing referees backfired badly, drawing far more attention to her comments than they would have otherwise. Her podcast episodes, which triggered the fines, saw a surge in listeners as fans rushed to hear what sparked the league's strong reaction. This is a clear example of the Streisand effect, where attempts to suppress information only make it spread wider, and the WNBA fell into this trap without hesitation. Sophie's honesty is exactly what the league needs more of, yet instead of welcoming her openness as a chance to improve, the WNBA punished her. When players can speak freely about problems, it creates opportunities to fix them. But punishing truthfulness only hides issues until they grow too big to ignore. The WNBA has long struggled with trust and credibility, and this harsh response to valid criticism only widens the gap between the league and its supporters. The timing made matters worse. Around the same time, a Wall Street Journal article raised the possibility of federal investigations into the league for potential civil rights violations against Caitlin Clark. This led to national media attention, including a Fox News segment questioning whether the WNBA fosters a hostile work environment. With such serious concerns in the spotlight, fining players for talking about officiating appears not just tone-deaf, but completely disconnected. It's like rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship while ignoring the real crisis. Sophie's experience also exposes the WNBA's deeper problems with player relations. Rather than working with athletes to strengthen the league, officials seem to treat players like employees to be controlled. This outdated approach silences authentic voices that could create stronger fan connections. Leagues like the NBA thrive because outspoken players like Charles Barkley are encouraged to challenge norms. The WNBA's seen but not heard stance risks turning the sport bland and forgettable. Sophie's podcast energizes the league and gives fans genuine insight into players' views. Still, the WNBA penalizes her every time she raises concerns, even when her critiques are respectful. She recognized that officiating is tough and praised some referees, but that wasn't enough to avoid punishment. The message is clear. No criticism, no matter how fair, is allowed. Fans have fiercely opposed these fines, refusing to accept the league's actions. Many have offered to pay Sophie's fines and signed petitions demanding real officiating reform. This is more than typical social media complaints. It shows deep frustration with leadership's failure to fix core issues. This situation reveals why the WNBA struggles for mainstream respect. Focusing on controlling player speech instead of improving the game only hurts growth. When the product is solid, players won't complain publicly. But with poor officiating, no fines will stop the truth from spreading. Sophie Cunningham's fines reveal a leadership crisis, prioritizing image over real solutions. Until that changes, more controversies will follow. So, what do you think? Can the WNBA overcome its leadership crisis and fix officiating, or will silencing players only fuel more controversy? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.